Hey guys, I'm Deanna. I'm the owner of dceriseboutique as well as the Facebook group Tumbler Tutors, and welcome to my brand new channel. I am so excited to be here with you guys. It has been a long time coming. I've been making tumblers for about 5 years now, and back when I started, there weren't nearly as many tutorials as there are now. Because of that, I have a slightly different approach to tumbler making, and I cannot wait to use this channel to show you guys the different methods and the different techniques that I use, and just overall make beautiful cups together. For my first ever video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I took a tumbler that was bound for the strip pile and turned it into something absolutely gorgeous. I really think you guys are gonna love this. Let's get into it. So today I snagged this beautiful cup out of the strip pile. I've got some mistakes that I made on here and I want to give it a new purpose. So I'm going in with my favorite pop of color green pine needle, and I'm just going to use a little foam brush, and I'm going to start layering on that green. I do have a little bit of a vision for this cup. I want to keep the bottom green and the top white, I believe. And I'm just gonna go around and follow the line from where the chevron meets the white. This cup was my first ever tumbler tape cup, and I kind of messed up the seam. I think I messed up the chevron. There was a couple places that I just was not happy with this cup, and that's how it ended up in the strip pile. But I'm just going around and I'm following that line that the chevron made for me, making sure that I don't have too much paint on my brush when I'm placing my brush there so that it doesn't squeeze out and get onto the white or anywhere that I don't want it. So another thing that I'm making sure that I'm doing is when I put the paint on the cup, I want to make sure that there's no like places that have too much paint. I want everything to be nice and smooth. I want there to be a nice even layer of the paint. Something that's also really good about going over just raw glitter with paint is that it gives the paint something to grab onto. And so when we are ready to put our glitter on here, it isn't going to be completely dry. The paint will still be wet when we put the glitter on. So now we're going in with our glitter. This is a 1-to-1 ratio mix of Hash and Olive Dream from Peachy Olive Glitters. Hash by itself is just a little bit too dark and Olive Dream is just a little bit too light, so I mixed these two together, and I think that this mix is going to be perfect for what I am envisioning for this tumbler. I do have all the products that I'm going to be using linked down below in the description, as well as some discount codes for you guys to enjoy. So now I'm going to tap off all of the excess glitter, and we're going to move on to the top part. I'm using Mod Podge. The purple is hard coat Mod Podge. There is no real difference, just my personal preference. And I'm going to be using Mod Podge instead of white paint because the top is already white. I don't have to change the color of it. Mod Podge is one of my favorite methods for applying glitter. I feel like it gets a really bad rap in the tumbler community, but I think it's because a lot of people don't like the way that Mod Podge looks once they put their glitter on. My absolute best tip for Mod Podge is thin layers, and to make sure that you smooth the Mod Podge out. Any lumps or bumps that with your Mod Podge is definitely going to show under your glitter. So a thin coat and smoothing all the lines out is key. So now I'm going to start going close to, but not right up against the green. I'm going to be using the flat edge of my foam brush here, and I'm going to be getting close. I'm going to be putting a line and dragging it down. This is going to make sure that we do not drag any of our dark color into our light color, and we will not have a mess. You can see I'm squishing the Mod Podge that I have in my brush. I'm not putting a lot on, And I'm just kind of squishing it in there and pulling down, squish and pull down. We can clean up the lines after. So now I'm gonna start finishing up going around against the green. And after I'm done with that, I'm gonna go around the tumbler and make sure there are no lines, no lumps, no bumps, nothing. We are in a really good position with this Mod Podge, just like the paint, that we're going over raw glitter, so it is going to stay wet, perfect for our glitter application. I'm going in with Veil from Peachy Olive Glitters. It is a beautiful, chunky, matte white. It is my absolute favorite white glitter from them. I use this thing on everything. And because it is a little bit of a chunky glitter, I want to make sure that it is nice and smoothed down for our epoxy. So I roll it in a little bit of parchment paper and light touch because the paint and the Mod Podge is still a little bit wet. And of course I forgot to record my epoxy, but now that I've got a coat on, I'm gonna go in with this beautiful translucent vinyl from Peachy Olive Glitters. And I'm going to cut a little piece off the edge. I'm gonna rip it down the side. And then I'm going to wrap the vinyl around the cup, and I'm going to make sure that it is lined up with that white and green meeting line. Once it is nice and even, I'm going to go ahead and rub down that vinyl to make it stick. I'm going to make sure that it's on there really good, and I am going to take my little handy dandy helper from Two Moms Craft Shack and smooth her out. Then I'm going to flip the vinyl over and I'm going to peel it up just a little bit. And as I'm pulling that backing away, I'm going to take my little, I don't even know what this is, my little squeegee, my little felt squeegee. And I'm just going to rub it down. And because I've got the backing going one way, when I rub down, it's going to go ahead and remove itself from the backing. I want to make sure that I'm rubbing it really, really well, because if you're like me, the first time I ever used translucent vinyl, I didn't know you had to rub it down really well, and you could see everywhere where the vinyl just kissed the cup, and it looked like there was just a bunch of bubbles underneath it. So I learned that you need to really give it some rubbing. So I'm just going to go ahead and rub really well, take my time around the cup. If I notice any bubbles coming up, I'll go ahead and pull my vinyl back up just a little bit and release that bubble and continue on. You can see here, I just did that. I pulled it up, released some bubbles, and moved on. Now, once we meet our starting point, I'm going to go ahead and trim off the excess vinyl. This is going to be perfect if I decide to make a pen wrap later on. And I'm just going to take a look and admire this beautiful vinyl. And look how gorgeous. Oh, I love it. It's coming out so cute. Now back to our handy dandy felt squeegee. I'm going to rub down really well on the part where the vinyl crosses over each other. And then I'm going to rub down against the very, very top edge. You'll see why we do that in just a second. We want to make sure that it is very, very well up against all of our places. I'm going to go ahead and tuck that vinyl along the top. I'm going to make sure that I pull and place, just to make sure that we have a very good connection to the top edge of our cup. Now I'm going to go back to our seam, and I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to make small cuts where the vinyl meets. Don't cut too far over, just small cuts where the vinyl meets. And the small cut will help your X-Acto knife not walk and go wild and have a mind of its own. Small cuts are where it is at. I'm gonna pull up just a little bit and I'm going to trim that top piece. And then I'm gonna pull up the bottom edge and I'm going to peel that excess off. And ta-da, beautiful. Now, because we just pulled that off, we're gonna have to lay it down a little bit, so just running my fingers over it and tucking the top back over. Back to the squeegee, make sure everything is laid down really nicely. Now we're gonna go around the top edge with our X-Acto knife and we're gonna trim off all of that excess vinyl. The reason why we used our squeegee and really went hard on that top edge is because when we trim our excess vinyl, we want to make sure that everything is super secure to the very top edge of the cup. I went ahead and like moved any kind of bubbles or any kind of extra vinyl that wasn't laying down properly, and now we're just making sure that everything is laid down perfectly. We want a nice clean edge with no lumps, bumps, or bubbles. Now I'm going back in with my X-Acto knife and we are trimming just a little bit more of that vinyl. I just want to make sure that we're able to expose just a little bit more of that top edge and have our epoxy able to completely seal the vinyl. And we once again want to make sure that our vinyl is laying down perfectly around that edge. That way our epoxy lays smooth. And of course I forgot to record my epoxy again, but she is nice and smooth and she is looking cute. Time for vinyl. I had this green, but it was a little bit off color. So what I did was I sanded a piece of it and I spray painted it in this really pretty hunter green Rustoleum color. And it is not a perfect match, but it's pretty darn close. So we're gonna go ahead and use that. I've got my handy little tool from Cowbell Customs and it is going to help me keep my tumbler from rolling around while I apply this vinyl. I went ahead and cut an offset to the decal that I'm going to be using. You can see the difference in color there from where I spray painted it. And I'm just going to place it over the seam. The vinyl is going to help hide that seam because we're placing it strategically. You can't even tell that there's a seam there. Just place it down the center first and then I rub the different sides out. I go from one side to the other. You can see there's a little bit of a bubble there, but we're just gonna rub it down and it will go away. And ta-da, nice and pretty. Make sure it's all laid down nicely. Gorgeous. So now I have my decal cut out. I got this decal on Etsy. It is so cute. I'm using Cricut brand premium textured vinyl in platinum. Let me tell you guys, this vinyl gave me a run for my money. Okay, all these little pieces, they were trying to embarrass me and it took me a lot longer than I'm willing to admit to weed this vinyl. I don't usually have this happen like this. I use the premium textured vinyl all the time, but I think it was just the really thin and small parts of this vinyl that it just wasn't working. It took me forever to weed this, but I finally got it done and it was worth it in the end. It really was. It's so cute. Now that 15 years of weeding vinyl is done, I'm going in with some transfer tape and I'm just laying it down and back to my little squeegee and making sure that it's attaching to the transfer tape really well. But surprise, that didn't help. It was still not easy transferring this to the transfer tape. I'm telling you guys, this vinyl tried my whole life. They were like, oh, your first ever YouTube tutorial? Okay, we're gonna embarrass you. So I spent another 30 years trying to transfer this vinyl to the transfer tape, and you'll see my struggle here. But I do use a little bit of a fun method here. I wrap my backing around my squeegee, and I squeegee and pull the backing at the same time. And it usually works, but again, this vinyl tried my life. Yay, we did it. Okay, so now we're gonna go in with some parchment paper, and I'm gonna place the parchment paper over the back of the decal. This is gonna help us to be able to move the decal around without having to stick it down. The only thing that can be stuck down is the transfer tape. So I went ahead and stuck down the transfer tape, and now I'm gonna be going in with my tape measure, and I'm going to be measuring and remeasuring like a crazy person to make sure that it is in the exact spot that I want it. You'll see me be able to lift it up and put it back down about a trillion times because I want to make sure that this is perfectly center to our vinyl. So once again, you'll see that I can pick up the transfer tape and I can move it around, and nothing is sticking down just yet. Now that I'm finally happy with the placement, I'm going to pick up the side of the parchment paper, and I'm going to start the hinge method. But again, the vinyl is trying my life, so I'm going to have to go a little bit by little bit and kind of push the vinyl down back onto the transfer tape. And once I get all of the vinyl onto the transfer tape, I'm going to pull the parchment paper out and go ahead and hinge it down perfectly into place. Now I'm gonna rub it down really well because this vinyl, you already know. And I'm gonna go ahead and peel that transfer tape off, and look at that. It is so pretty and it's perfectly centered. All that time was worth it. Back onto my little handy dandy tool, and I'm going to use my tool to make sure that we're lined up perfectly front to back. And we did that because now I'm going to start a little strip in the middle of the back of the cup. This little strip is also the Cricut textured premium vinyl in platinum, and it is cut at 11 by 0.10. And I'm just gonna start wrapping it around the cup where the white and the green meet. I'm gonna go and make sure that that line is perfectly centered to that meeting line. That's gonna make sure that we have a nice crisp line, that if there was any glitter that mixed right there, that's gonna cover it all up. It's also gonna cover up where our vinyl met the cup. And once I finally get it perfectly in place, I'm going to lay down that vinyl, and then I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut through the first layer of that overlapping vinyl. I'm not going to cut super deep, just want to cut that first layer. Sometimes if we cut through both layers, it kind of separates under the hot epoxy. So look at how pretty she looks. I'm gonna go ahead and put my logo on the bottom. These are white ink water slides. I ordered them from my dear friend Heather Ugenti on Facebook. And just like a water slide, I'm going to wet my finger and wet the bottom of my cup. And I'm going to take my little water slide and I'm going to slide it out onto the bottom of my cup. I'm going to make sure that it's even. I want it to be centered to the bottom of the cup, but I also want my little logo to be facing the middle of the cup. So I'm going to put it in its right place. I'm going to press it down, get all that water out from underneath there, and smooth her out. No lines, no excess water underneath, and we can always move it around if needed, just making sure once again that it's centered. And any little touch-ups that we need to do. Looks good to me. So I'm using my light to make sure that there's no bubbles or anything that lifted up. Pretty. So now I'm going to go ahead and sand the top edge. I'm using 220 grit sandpaper. Just buy it in sheets and I wrap it around this old sanding block that I have. I'm going to be going around and exposing a little bit of that stainless steel around the top edge of the cup. We want to do this so that our epoxy seals to the side of the cup and not the top edge of the cup. Just taking some rubbing alcohol and I'm cleaning the inside and I'm cleaning the outside of any dusting that we may have made. You can kind of see here the silver edge of the cup that we exposed. That's going to really help us when we epoxy. So now we're going in with some Quick Coat from Counterculture DIY. Quick Coat is a urethane sealer, so think clear spray paint. We are going to be putting the Quick Coat on with a gloved hand, just spreading it out. It takes about 10 minutes to dry, but what it's going to do is it's going to seal in our vinyl so that there are going to be no fish eyes. There isn't going to be any repelling of our epoxy over our vinyl. Everything is going to be nice and smooth and pretty. And I finally remembered to record my epoxy. So I'm mixing up 30 mLs of Counterculture DIY's Artist Resin. And I'm just gonna start putting it on. And I'm making sure that I put a nice, a good bit of a layer on there. Nothing too crazy though. I just wanna make sure I don't miss any spots. I wanna make sure everything's got really good coverage. I want to take off anything that I feel with my hand may be too much. And I just make sure it's nice and smooth. And now I'm going in with my torch for one quick rotation, moving fast to pop any micro bubbles that may have popped up. And here she is, the finished product. She came out so beautiful. I am so happy that we saved her from the strip bin. I'm so obsessed with this cup. It is beautiful. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at dceriseboutique. Also, please feel free to join my community for makers, Tumbler Tutors on Facebook, linked in the description below. See you guys next time.